So I'm Peter Anderson, and I was head teacher at St Luke's in Tiptree. Kyra's one of our pupils, and one day Kyra's mum made contact with me, and she was talking to me about concerns that she had for Kyra. Kyra was getting herself into trouble lots of the time and generally not feeling very happy at school.
My name's Joanne Mackey. I'm a teacher at St Luke's Primary School in Tiptree. I began at St Luke's in September, and before I began, I got a breakdown of all the different children, and Kyra was already highlighted to me at the beginning of the year by the previous teacher. She'd been put on behaviour books, and she'd had other interventions to help her make friends and be a better person, or be a nicer person within the class. I was told she didn't have any friends, and I was told that the parents were upset with her behaviour towards their children, and that she wasn't liked by the parents as well as the children. So it's quite a big burden for a child of 10 years of age.
Kyra, from your point of view, how was it feeling before we started talking? What was life like at school?
The main problem would be when my friends, I'd ask them to play,
Yeah.
and when they'd say no, I'd normally get a little bit angry with them, and then that'd how the problems would start. So they'd call me bossy because I'd always choose that what I wanted to play. So if they wanted to play a game, it would always be like, no, we have to play this, my idea.
What started to happen then with your friends, or the people that you wanted to be friends with?
They'd like slightly drift away from me. Let's say they'd be my friend, and then they'd be feeling like they wouldn't. Obviously, if I'm gonna get angry with them, and they're gonna feel a bit upset, and then they didn't want to be my friend any longer.
Right.
And then as I wasn't thinking about that, when they wouldn't talk to me, and that'd make me feel like I'd be really lonely. What they said to me is that they used to say that they didn't want to play with me because they were a little bit scared of me, because I'd make them upset normally.
When the children were talking to me, it was often like they were almost fearful of Kyra, but then they were very happy to come and tell me straight away it was Kyra. And then more and more children were coming to me saying, Kyra's done this, Kyra's done that, Kyra's done this. Speaking to Kyra, she had no idea that she was doing this. She from her perspective, she'd started the year knowing that she wanted to make a change, and that she didn't realise that she was affecting people the way she was affecting them.
When your friends were saying to you they were frightened of you, how did that feel?
I feel like that wasn't right for them. They shouldn't have to come in every day feeling scared of me. I mean, I wouldn't want to have to come in every day not wanting to go to school because of this person being horrible to them every day. And that's why I'd always be like normally upset.
And so that was on your mind a lot, really?
Yeah.
So when you were coming into school in the morning, what sort of feeling did you have about coming into school in those times?
A little bit worried and scared, and it was a little bit hard for me. Like, I couldn't really concentrate because when I'm thinking about it at school, I was trying to concentrate, and it'd make it hard for me to learn.
So then parents started coming in as well. So then it was a flagged issue. It wasn't just children on the playground, parents were coming in, and that's when I spoke to Peter Anderson, the head teacher. Peter suggested we try something new and try the 3 principles approach.
We came to talk, didn't we?
Yeah.
I talked to your mum first, and then
Yeah.
we met up, and you came to my office, which was very brave, wasn't it? Coming to the head teacher's room. Can you remember some of the things we talked about?
Yeah, we talked about every thought there's a feeling, and that when you when you're upset and you get in the mood with someone else, it's not always their fault, it's what you're feeling from the outside.
Peter got involved and took Kyra to one side and carried on with the intervention of the 3 principles. And I think what I noticed, what came from that, Kyra started understanding more about how her reactions were causing the other children, or her reactions or her actions were causing the other children to retaliate very quickly because of previous incidences.
We also had that glow ball. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we used that as a bit of a metaphor, really, didn't we, for
Yeah.
thinking. Can you talk a bit about that? Because you quite like that idea, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, when I'd shake it and it would glow, it'd be like loads of feelings. When I bounce it and it'd glow up, that's when all my feelings were like all over the place. But then instead of going and making it worse by taking it out on other people, I realised before that I wouldn't. I just go and then that would make it even worse. But then I realised that if I just wait and let it calm down, then I can go and start it again and make it, and then it'll be all better.
Kyra would remember that her thoughts were like a snow dome with all the stuff floating around, and sometimes you just need to give them time to settle.
So by leaving things alone, by leaving your own thinking alone, your thoughts start to calm down.
Yeah.
And then what happens? When things are calming down, what happens then for you?
What I'd normally do is I can kind of go and sort it out with them, because if I was still really upset when I'm sorting it out, it'd be a bit hard for me.
Right.
When you've got all those feelings in your head, it'd be really hard for me. Then once it's calmed down, it's better for me, because then I can sort it out and talk about it, and then it'd be better.
Since doing the 3 principles sessions, she's now able to think more carefully before she acts. 100% I can say she's 100% more calm. There might be still progress to be made, but from my opinion, she's just settled.
I don't get as many big problems anymore. I mean, it doesn't get as big as involving a head teacher.
I had less, and I have less children coming to me now. Definitely less children. Parents rarely come to me. No, I can't. In the last 2 months, I don't have any parents coming to me. You still get the odd child, but I get the odd child for other children as well. So no more so. It's not Kyra anymore.
It's much better, yeah. As I said, I'm always listening to them, and we can always have much better breaks together. We're always doing stuff together, and I help them with things sometimes at playtime. And we always choose together, and it's a lot happier for me, because I always have a whole break with them, and we're always playing nicely and having fun.
The group work aspect, that would be worth mentioning. That is definitely has definitely improved, because there's nobody complaining. Nobody's scared to go into Kyra's group.
The difference then between in the past and now, in terms of how you like school on 0 to 10 scale, what you felt about school, what would you have said before?
2.
So generally now, what would you say now?
9.
9.
I'm still having my ups and downs, but it's a lot better.
Yeah, but as a whole, she's doing so much better at school. She's smiling. Mum's come to me and been really happy with her attitude. She's actually having people coming to stay at her house and come for dinner.
And with my circle of friends, as I started off with 3, then more and more as my friends that were in my group, they'd go back and tell their friends about it, they said. And then more of them would be like, oh, can I join? I said, yeah, of course. And then I'd had about 9, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
Kyra's been fortunate to have that training to slow down her thoughts. In fact, I think Mr. Anderson should come into my class and do it with everybody, and it might make it a little bit easier for me.
I find work much better now as well. I'm enjoying my work
Wow. Yeah.
because I have nothing really to worry about. Whereas when you're trying in tests, I used to find it really hard worrying about the questions and my problems all at the same time, and I'd always find it really hard. But now I'm really good at that, my teacher said. And I asked them, I said, you don't have to answer me if you don't want to, but are you still scared for me? And they're like, no, I'm fine. It's really helped me, and they said that they've been able to talk to me more and been able, without me like bossing them around, they've been able to talk to me and it's been more easier for them, they said.
And how's it been for you?
Same, I've been able to talk to my friends more.
I think the Three Principles approach would be super helpful for other children. I mean, I've already mentioned that I'd love it for every child, issues or no issues. I think every child and teachers need to have that understanding. I certainly think it would be good for children in other schools that do have significant issues, especially with regards to anger, because it usually comes from your thinking, and regards to bullying, children that are very solitary. There's a good handful of children that I can think of right now that I would love for work to be done just to help them understand different ways of thinking.
I feel more excited to go to school. But normally I'd be like, I don't want to go to school.
No.
Because it'd be so sad. I'd be really sad to go to school, but now I'm really excited. I'm always like, oh, can I go to school now?
Here, come up from there. Yeah. What was so interesting, I mean, her mum was at her wit's end. Can I get adult child mental health involved? So I said to her, well, we can, but, maybe let's have a chat first. So I had a chat a bit to mum, who's trained to be a social worker, and she was quite sort of interested enough, and I think desperate enough, because I'm saying, we could start talking straight away. And the brilliant thing is working with children is that they don't come with an agenda of other things. They're not turning around and saying, well, this is a bit like mindfulness. It's like, you can say to them things like, you start talking about the thought-feeling connection, and it's, okay, that's how it works. All right then, that's fine. I'll get off and live the rest of my life happily now. Now I realise it's like that. So the sort of angst that sometimes, certainly I experienced about seeing the understanding and then not seeing it and all of that, Kyra was just much more, much more receptive to it and felt it firsthand. And so then, one of the things to help her was that she started to mention the circle of friends thing. So we had some children that she'd nominated that she'd like to be part of the circle of friends for her. So there were 6. So I talked, and she rehearsed with me what she'd like me to say to them. So I said to them that she's been having some troubles, as you know. How would you feel about being a part of this circle of friends, and then explain what that was. And that was really just saying things like hi in the morning, or would you want to play at break, or have lunch together, and things like this. And so 3 out of the 6 said they wanted to do it. So then after lunch I said to Kyra, come see me, and so I said, I've got great news for you. 3 of the children want to do it. So she sort of looked at me, and I could see it go through her head. What about the other 3? So then she said to me, in the past, bear in mind this is like hours, just a few hours in between. So in the past, I'd have gone up to those other children and I'd said, why don't you want to be friends? She said, but I'm not going to do that. That's really great. I said, that's fantastic. And then as she was saying at the end there, that bit by bit, more and more children then wanted to be friendly, because I could see her real light, shining, and she was just, her mum was just over the moon, and And a bit like me with Jenny in the early days, when Jenny first came across this, I couldn't believe there could be such a change in somebody so quickly. And I know Sid talks about, Freedom Forest being one thought away, but it really, really is. And I think working with children, that privilege of seeing, seeing the light. Because she said to me right at the start, she said, the thing is, in my head, she said, I know I'm really horrible and I want to be different. And I decide I'm going to be different. She said, and then I come into school and then everybody treats me the same. And then I get very angry. And then you could see her face cloud over. And that strength of feeling that was there for her. But it's just another one of those sorts of stories, really, where the power of this. And I think sometimes, it's like, because we filmed a couple of other children in the past, there's Pierce and Charlotte, and that with any of them, if you took the sound off, it almost wouldn't matter, because you just look at their faces and they're just glowing, really, and you think of the little minx that she was. Well, you don't know that, but she really, really was on the surface, and how she's been able to blossom so quickly, and so it's it's very powerful for all of us.
Peter, was that just one conversation you had with her, or a series?
I started the huge change happened with one conversation. Massive change, and that conversation was about 50 minutes. So we drew a few diagrams. We had the smoke, the glow thing, and then we followed it on. Because there were some bits where she was then reflecting on how she was feeling. And so, it's interesting because there's quite a lot that she said to me that she didn't say on camera, but about how she was essentially, she was saying she was getting comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, having some of those feelings that were coming up for her, and realising that she didn't need to act on them. And a bit like Rudy was saying about the jails, people in jail, because that's all it is really. It's just somebody gone a bit further along that course, isn't it? They believed their thinking, they bought into their thinking, acted on that thinking, and then got themselves into jail.
It's like teaching them the difference between reacting or responding, isn't it? Because somebody could say something to you on one day, for any of us, and you might just go, oh, okay, just let it go. Or another day, however, depending on how you're feeling, say, why did you say that? Or the other thing I notice as well is how, because of her behaviour, how children, almost like they came to expect that. So even though she wanted to change, they were keeping her in the same place. And one person having that idea about her, it's sort of like the kids then get into an agreement, then the parents are in agreement about her behaviour. It doesn't allow her much space to move,
really
to change.
Quickly as well, that sort of relationship, and then that was keeping her stuck. So she was already having some insights about the fact that, to get along with other people, that isn't the best way of doing it. She was seeing that for herself.
The reaction time can be faster because there's not much room to...
No.
Did you get any feedback from the other children about the impact that the change in her had on them?
Yeah, tremendous in the class. I mean, the whole class was a lot happier because she got that in so many ways.
Teaching us that too.
And yeah, she was. So Jenny and I did a training with the staff, didn't we? Jenny had some thinking about that, didn't you? I kept trying to put Jenny up for it, and then she kept somehow not giving me a date for it. and I said to her, can't do. And then it was along the lines of, I talked to all those teachers. Really, they're going to know loads. And so that was really good. And then we bought Michael Neal's book, The Inside Out Revolution, and so I had a bit more to go on.
What depth did you go into with her? Did you go into mind? Did you just concentrate on thought? Did you simplify it in some way because she's younger? Or
the first bit of it was about thought, the thought-feeling connection really, and giving opportunities to, if your thoughts slow down a bit, then it gives some opportunity to hear insights. And then when we talked about that, I was saying to her, you know, about wisdom and about times maybe when you're stuck on something and you give up and you walk away, and then the answer to what you've been searching for just suddenly is in. And she'd had experiences like that. So that resonated for her, and it's just trying to find things that will help resonate. And I mean, well, I think one of the metaphors we talked about was like being on a roundabout, and you get on the roundabout to start with, and then you can see everybody and you can wave to friends and stuff. But when it starts going really, really fast, you know, everything becomes a blur, and that really resonated for her a lot as well. And so it's bit by bit piecing it together, and it's funny because it just so is in the moment, really. When other professionals have said to me, "Oh, so you know, how do you do this? So what's the course? Where do we start?" You know, and in a way, that is really hard to answer because there isn't. You build up a bit of a feeling, and there's a connection there, and straight off, I just saw this little girl that was just really lost in the thinking, but actually was a delight. You know?
I think I was just saying that before we started filming, she was chatting with my dad, and she really was seeing how her behaviour towards other people was kind of, it wasn't fair on them, and she started to just, and she had insight about how that would feel if it happened to her. I'm trying to remember what it was that I said.
Sorry.
I think it was weird for us because we'd heard all these stories from my dad about how she'd been, and then she just showed up and she was just this cute little girl. And then she
It's like I've made it all up, isn't it?
and bless,
It's not true, really.
she was kind of wriggling around because I think
Yeah.
she needed the toilet and she didn't want to ask, but
And she was nervous as well. She was quite nervous about it. I mean, I think what I was really keen to do was to just show her as she was, and not get her to try and have, if you like, the right words around about, because that in a way is quite easy to do, to almost school her to say, oh well, you know, I'm going to ask you about such and such, and then, you know, remember. So that was in the moment. So what we were, that was a discussion in the moment. And so what came up for her and how she responded and what I asked her was just literally in the moment, and it wasn't practiced in any way. And I think, I mean, that's what we did on the other
also
two,
with the teacher who spoke,
Yeah.
we've had to cut quite a lot out because we've had the mum okay the video before we showed it. But what the teacher was saying was that she was a bully. Other children were scared of her, and really gave quite a big picture of what she was like. But the mum didn't really want her to come across on the internet as being a bully. But even Kyra herself said she was bullying other children. So it's kind of one of the key bits that we really wanted in there we had to take out, because it showed that she'd gone from being this child that everyone was scared of to being someone that everyone wanted to be friends with, and then she was talking to the other children about what she'd learnt in her language and making sense for them. So,
Is there anyone showing this to children in schools anyway?
Well, I mean, the latest school, I've gone to a school that's in a bit of trouble at the moment, so I'm working there. So, you know, actually working with parents and working with staff and working with children, you know, it's an ideal opportunity, because the hard bit that I found is when you're on the outside of the system's quite hard to break into. See, I've mercilessly just used my position to get around that, and it's just one of those things. But being on the outside, you know, straight away people will say, so how's this validated then? What qualifications have you got in this thing? What's the course structure like? You know, how many weeks does it run, etc., etc. All the things, well, because in a way that's a known world, isn't it? And so it's an understandable set of questions. And so in a way it's trying to build up people's trust, I think, to maybe take you in and give it a try and then see, you know, what happens. I think in a way the films are really helpful because they do speak for themselves, don't they? I know Charlotte, part way after she had her sort of transformation, said to me, oh, and I won't mention the child's name, but I says now, but she said, oh, so-and-so's going through a difficult time at the moment, her parents are broken up. So I've just been talking to her a bit about the principles. Is that all right? Okay, that's perfect. Yeah. Good job.
I think also we want it. There's tell the story about Pierce, because Pierce is on the movie site at age 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And then he contacted you at the last year.
Yeah. So age now, whatever it is, about 14. I got an email from him before Christmas last year saying I'm having a bit of trouble with my thinking. So I emailed him back and said, well, you know, you're welcome. I said to you at any time if you want to have another chat, then that's fine. And because he'd previously done that after he'd started secondary school, and he said to his mum, you know, it's all going wrong for him and he's having these dodgy thoughts and it wasn't so good. And so she set up a time to come into school with him after school, and on the very morning he was due to come in, she came to me and she said, oh, I need to cancel because Pierce has been to me and he said, it's okay, I think I can do it myself. And so I said, well, you know, the door's open, we'll leave it. And so then, whatever it was, a couple of years went by, and then I saw him before Christmas, and so he was still remembering, in the moment he was remembering, this is my thinking, but it had got his thoughts had got very, very uncomfortable for him. So it was about then trying to explore how that could be okay to not be frightened of your own thoughts and of your own thinking. Because I know personally I found that so powerful to begin that realisation that it is possible, you know, they are just made up stuff, and that I haven't got to be so frightened of that. And in a way, that's the sort of conversation we had, and again left the door open. And I got an email back from him about a week and a half later saying things were going well, and he felt, you know, that things were okay again. But he was somebody that, you know, he was picking on the particular things. So he was like, he's a really good footballer, and yet he was worrying about how well he was doing. And he got into loads of thinking about that. He got into thoughts about some of his friendships, and was worrying about that. So it's, but it's quick. You know, that's the bit with children. It does seem, because like his mum had said, you know, do I sign up for 6 weeks? And I'm saying, well, we'll come once and let's see how we go. Because Pierce had stopped eating when I first saw him. His brother had been sick at a party. Pierce then was at the party too, and he rushed out and was sick, and then he thought, I can't eat anymore because if I eat I'm going to be sick. And that was within an hour again of chatting, that life suddenly just went, what Dickon was talking about, that opening out and falling back into the space that's there, and that, like almost like the safety net. It's the hugely reassuring thing in life, isn't it? If we're not walking on our own, if we know always that there's those arms almost, you know, metaphorical arms that are out there ready to catch us if we fall, then it's okay, it's not frightening anymore, is it?
I think as well what was so cool about listening to the kids is you kind of look at it and you've got a perspective of, oh, they didn't have friends at school, or she was feeling a bit upset at playtime and her big worry was going to the teacher's office, and you can kind of, but it's almost like that's her version of what we do as adults. So we've all got our head teacher that we've got to speak to, or a big problem that is important and we do need to worry about, and it is worth putting in all that energy. And I don't know, with young kids you kind of see it and you can see that it can be sorted out quite easily, but with our problems we see them as real and solid and fixed. But to see them as the same, that they're these thought-created problems that actually, if you look at them differently, they will look different. That there's always somewhere a deeper way to see it, or if you just leave it alone. I love that she just said, you just leave it alone, you shake the ball and then you leave it alone and it clears. But then we're like, oh no, our adult problems, they're far worse.
Yeah,
but it's seeing it as the simplicity of a kid, of just going, oh, sometimes I still have my ups and downs. It's never as bad as I have to go and see the head teacher. And it was.
That's why she's only 9 on this
But it was just so sweet to see that.
See, another metaphor sometimes was used that occurred to me one time was that, you know, if thoughts are a bit like a little snowball, and you know those are sort of whizzing by you all day long, but for some of them it's like, what's this about? And then, you know, the snow's out there, and then you start just rolling it around, and then what's it become? And it becomes big and fat and stuck. But actually, again, what happens if you just leave it alone and leave it out there in the sun? And for children, easily they seem to hook into that as an image or as a metaphor. And that whole sense of there's nothing to do, just leave it, and of its own accord it will sort itself out. It's hugely helpful for all of us.
Yeah.
Are we done?
I'm done.
I want to give you a clap.